Hey guys, Curious here. I gotta read out a comment. It's a pretty good comment, but I didn't want it on my Trayvon Martin video. So, let's see if I can just read it here, and I'll explain in a minute. Uh, it's interesting that you say you have the views of a futurist, yet you stated that you support excluding people and oppose diversity. What would you exclude people from? What are you talking about excluding? Okay, well, as a small government cultural conservative, I feel that I want deregulated laws. And some of those laws are laws that are to do with social justice and positive rights. So, if you deregulate those laws, it does impact those groups. And so, it does become a problem with social justice. So, I guess you could say that that's excluding people because it's a inclusive thing, an exclusive an exclusive thing. An inclusive thing, because you're choosing to follow even a deregulated. I got tongue tied between inclusion and exclusive. Inclusiveness and exclusivity. Yeah, really hard words to say, for me anyway. But the point is that even though it's a deregulated thing where less laws are being written, those laws are to do with positive rights. So they're laws that promote inclusion. Now, I want to see less of those laws because I don't like authoritarian views on culture. So, at the very least, I'm against anything laws, or at least I want minimal government when it comes to culture, and that includes race, gender, and sexuality between consenting adults, of which orientation is a part. There's other views where I'm pro-sex, like pro-sex feminists, except I'm not really a feminist because I'm small government. So, but generally my views overlap on those things because I support a decriminalized aspect that is a aspect of society that would be a progressive view. Like, I support gay marriage because I support laws that do not regulate sexuality or in law, like marriage. You could say I believe in polygamy also. Although, as a social conservative, I take these things to be the part of my conviction of small government. You can't say, well, I want small government here and not here, or at least culturally, or I don't. I try to make it a straight bet. Now, economically, I'm progressive because I do believe in bigger government and such, and there's a duality to that works into various aspects of how I see futurism. I have a whole playlist called Arcadia that talks about how I view a Venus project like revision of society and how my small government politics plays in with my futurist large government view on green energy and agro-based culture, biofuels and waste, and how we would handle things like the Venus Project, and why I'm mostly for the Venus Project, except for superstructures, and yada yada. How you would have a futurist society. And mine is post or retrofuturism because I'm a modernist, not a postmodernist. So, along with the Googie architecture comes a little bit of philosophy, I think. Of course, I married these two concepts together, and that's what I call social deregulation, or the Arcadia Initiative. But the only problem I haven't really found is how to make positive rights of economics apply fully to the slippery slope of deregulating the positive rights of civil rights and social justice. That diversity law and the whole progressive left thing represents. I would not want a segregated South. I don't want separate drinking fountains. These are collectivist things, and they have to be stopped. But at the same time, I am thoroughly against the idea of, I'm trying to think, of a society that puts emphasis on selective things like color politics, as opposed to like individualism and certain ethnic identity. If there is no color, why is there why is there race law? Except for the fact that it will become a slippery slope if deregulated too much. I believe it can be deregulated a lot and shifted to an individualist viewpoint on economic views, which means like social issues like wage things and people going on about like gay marriage, certain aspects of gay marriage, like people wanting to be representatives like traditionally a gay marriage person would be. Somebody's sick or passes away. I think there should be life contracts. Where it doesn't matter if you're if you're having a sexual relation or not. You're a consenting partner in a life contract. I believe that. And so that just knocks the friggin' thing of, we need gay rights. Because gay rights, it brings up this never-ending debate of, is this good, is this bad? As much as we can make these things a moot point, I think would be better, because I believe I have the right to say, no, I don't want to hire that guy because he's gay. But then that leads to the problems of like, well, that guy is 10 times more qualified than anybody else. Why shouldn't he get the job? And that's where the dichotomy of, of economic right versus social right or cultural right, not right wing, but I mean just cultural rights, comes a problem, of that, who's to say? I generally say economic over social. So there's always a positive right, social justice aspect to it. So that's my view on that. And see, that's why, it's so hard to talk to people about this, because it's very difficult to explain in very short questions when somebody goes, I don't like this and I support gay rights and and you're coming off like, well, to use the terms of the left that's demonized language, you're coming off as a freaking homophobe or something, and it's like, well, yeah, because I don't agree with the government, forcing a consensus that culture may not agree with. We're free to fail, and we're free to fail as a society, but when it becomes like, the water fountain thing again or something, or, a group consensus that becomes a social, collectivist view that falls into despotism and tyranny, or the absence of liberty, justice, and freedom, then it becomes, a problem that individual rights won't cure, and you need a little positive rights socially, socially, for culture. There's just no way around it that you're going to need a little positive rights for cultural views as well, or social views, as well as economic views. Well, since I'm mostly an economic progressive, I believe you're going to be a little conservatism there, because you're going to need a little individualism to avoid things like Marxism and other things, even some nationalism, because economic nationalism has great problems too. I don't want to see the bank owned by the state. As much as that sounds good, it leads to abuses, and it might sound like it's a more transparent viewpoint, but when you get to people who start making social laws, excuse me, controlling aspects of industry, then you've got problems. Just like Marxism, just like communism, and just like Nazism and everything else had the problems. And so I believe that. Let's see. Did I read this all off? Yeah, okay. I read this all off. Okay, so who am I talking about excluding? I'm talking about the haphazardous exclusion of some people that would be protected by those positive rights. I'm asking for small government to take back, or at least to shift to economic rights, which I believe is more individualist. So I get on these small questions, and I'm like, small government, this and that, no, that's your opinion, no, I don't want to hear it, don't freaking stigmatize me, blah, 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 the gay, and it's just like, I don't know, I try, but it's something I really do worry about, too. I mean, you have to understand, as a small government conservative, cultural means that I don't want deregulated laws, as opposed to social conservative who want to regulate culture conservatively, and I don't want that. I have to disagree with them too, even though I'm conservatively, I might like some of those things, if you see what I'm getting at. So I have to agree with things I dislike, and somewhat, or at least have issue with, and disagree with things I would like but can't justify, so there's that, and it's very confusing, but I believe it's a fair shake on not him picking what your views are if you say you want smaller government, right? Although, I do say, well, I'm an economic progressive, and then I try to be honest about that. Just say, okay, here, the boundary line shifts, and this is where I have positive rights, this is where I'm a futurist. Well, it's all where I'm a futurist. But it's where I think the emphasis on social justice and everything should be, you see. I hope, you see. Nobody ever gets this stuff. And it's like, to me, I've tried to say this clearly, and I hope I've said this clearly, but it's so alien to people sometimes that they just don't want to understand it. Sometimes I really think people just do not want to friggin' hear me or know something that makes all this irrelevant. I just really do. But, when people are like mad that, well, they're not respecting my rights. Well, you're not respecting my rights, and you've got the law on your side, and I don't want your nanny laws, state laws. But at the same time, it's hard to explain in a little paragraph that, well, yes, but I do support your positive right to get married anywhere you want, even though I don't support your opinion about homosexuality. I even confuse the right-wingers. I get on some nationalist boards that are on YouTube and some straight conservative boards, and they're just like, huh? They don't even get it at all. I usually get frigging, things like, what are you talking about, you liberal? So it just, yeah. But that's basically what I'm getting at. I mean, you should have your right as a part of sexuality between consenting adults to live your life how you please. And I should have a right to say what I think. Even if I'm at work, or even if I'm at a business, or, there shouldn't be laws protecting your viewpoints, is what I mean. And with a caveat that, you have to have some social justice culturally on social issues, or it'll be a slippery slope into a type of despotism, a type of segregated South, where everybody's basically stigmatized by one certain issue or another. You have to stop that. So I don't know where that point would end, to be honest. That's as far as I've gotten with it. And the whole course of YouTube, and before that, Yahoo message boards going back and forth about this stuff during the Bush years when I felt like friggin' planes were raining down from friggin' the skies. And I'm Republican and I'm a conservative, and it's just like, stay the course, and then I started realizing that as an atheist and someone who has various progressive views about economics that that isn't matching. I'm not a libertarian. I like Ayn Rand, but I even disagree with her. Because that's a whole different thing. That's a whole long thing about Ayn Rand. But I think there's a failing in libertarianism. So, I think there's a failings in nationalism and socialism and pretty much everything. So I don't know really where I am. It's just that it's hard. That's where I know where I've gotten to now, and I switched from an authoritarian view on culture, which was like, okay, I didn't know about I didn't know about the distinction between social and cultural conservatism. I was a social conservative, and I was like still trying to justify that around my atheism and stuff. And then I just realized one day, well, what is it I really don't like here? Is it really the homosexuality or race people who have minorities that have racial rights, or is it the idea of the authoritarianism? And I found out after really thinking about it that it was the authoritarianism that I didn't like. Even if it was progressive, I didn't like it. At least on culture issues. So that's what I realized, and that's why I switched from being like, there's some earlier videos where I'm like, yes on 8. California proposition against gay marriage. I'm like, no, this is promoting the homosexual agenda, and I don't believe homosexuality is normal. Or, and we know the whole arguments back and forth. Well, if you don't think it's normal, then, yada, 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 and FDA and FCC and Kinski and all that shit, And it's like, finally at the point, I was like, okay, I don't really care about debating that, and I'm not really too sure anymore how normal or not normal any part of sexuality is, but I respect the fact that I believe I should have some kind of opinion about it that isn't mandated by the courts or progressively inclined agencies, especially medical agencies, because they're all with the science departments, and the obvious thing about that is between science and business, and like the business of warfare and stuff like that, everybody's fighting over funding. It kind of fits our two-party system too, if you really look at that. So that's why I just realized that it was really the regulations that were bothering me. The idea that I'm a skeptic and I'm a free thinker, and I believe in free speech, free ideas, free thought, but all of a sudden this was not free thought anymore. This was bad thought, and I'm like, I became kind of skeptical of that. Not so much so that I'm like, got a t-shirt that says question diversity. Well, I probably would wear that, but it's not a hard and fast thing with me either, because like I've just explained in this video, I have several views that jump the gamut of being both, in some instances, socially progressive, and in others, economically progressive. I consider it 25-75 split. I've done a number of these videos. You can find them everywhere, and you just look up Republicus, or you look up friggin' Arcadia Initiative, and you'll see me just, blaring on, and people just ignoring it, But yeah, I actually did change my view on Proposition 8, because I realized that since I didn't like the authoritarianism, I didn't like the authoritarianism on culture, either progressive or conservative. What's the difference if you friggin', don't like the friggin' laws that are governing people's ideals if you're supporting it in another way? It just doesn't equate. So that's where I was. I hope that answers some questions, because I think this has been about the clearest video I've ever managed to speak about it. And if I'm confused you, I'm sorry. But I just want to be judged rightly for what you might see as wrongly. And who knows, maybe if you really bring up a good point, or something that resonates with me, I might change my view, because that's how I am. But, don't hold your breath. Anyway, thank you very much. Goodbye.